Airplanes are a very convenient and safe mode of transportation. Thanks to them, we can cover vast distances in a short time. However, despite this, many of us feel anxious before and during flights and hope that no unpleasant incidents occur. In this video, I want to tell you about 20 cases that happened on airplanes that will definitely surprise you. Enjoy watching. During a flight, people try to engage in activities to quickly find themselves back on the ground. They usually read books, look at photos on their smartphone, watch movies, eat, or sleep. In short, they do everything that does not cause discomfort to others on board. But sometimes passengers behave very strangely. Here's an example of such behavior. The girl in the frame just wanted to watch a movie on the built-in tablet, but the girl sitting in the seat in front of her had other plans. She decided it was much more important to preserve her hairstyle. Even when the girl expressed her dissatisfaction, it didn't stop her neighbor. Eventually, she resorted to extreme measures. The heroine of the video pulled her chewing gum out of her mouth and stuck it to her neighbor's hair. She carefully mashed the chewing gum to ensure it couldn't be easily removed. This video sparked many debates among netizens. Some thought the girl with the gum was wrong, as now her neighbor would have to cut her hair. Others defended her, arguing that the second girl got what she deserved, as she intentionally flipped her hair over the seat. What do you think? Who is right and who is at fault? In May 2023, 193 passengers on an Asiana Airlines Airbus 321, 200 faced a rather unusual situation that caused them significant stress. Before landing in the South Korean city of Daegu, a 33-year-old man suddenly felt suffocated. He was gasping for air and therefore decided to open the emergency door of the airplane. How he managed to do this remains a mystery. When the other passengers on board saw this, they were shocked. Some of them experienced panic attacks and began to suffocate. At that time, the aircraft was 250 meters above the ground. First aid was provided to the affected passengers, and the perpetrator of this incident was detained by the police. It's noteworthy that the man was not drunk. According to him, he felt intense fear before landing. He thought there was not enough air in the airplane cabin, and he would soon suffocate. Therefore, the man instinctively decided to open the emergency door. Fortunately, the altitude was safe, and all passengers survived, as it is the pressurization that allows people to be at such altitudes without health risks. Following this incident, the airline decided to suspend the sale of those seats located near the emergency door. In August 2023, passengers on a Boeing 747 of Southwest Airlines experienced real terror. The aircraft was en route from Houston, USA to Cancun, Mexico, when, shortly after takeoff, one of its engines caught fire. The crew decided to immediately return to Houston Airport. The passengers could only hope for a successful landing. The author of this video was on board the aircraft and decided to capture the incident on their smartphone. The footage shows small flashes of fire appearing every second from under the plane's right wing. Fortunately, the landing was successful. The passengers were transferred to another aircraft, but this flight will long be remembered with horror. A passenger on an airplane decided to make an amusing video featuring a daring pigeon. The footage shows the bird sitting on the plane's wing. Why did it do that? To rest, try to hitch a ride on the plane, or simply because it didn't understand what the object was? This video became popular. Users joked in the comments and offered various explanations. Someone even wrote that the pigeon decided to fly to the Maldives at the airline's expense. The bird might have indeed managed a ticketless flight, if not for the laws of aerodynamics. A few seconds after the plane took off, a strong headwind blew the pigeon away, although it tried hard to hold onto the wing. And I sincerely hope that next time it will succeed. Imagine being on a small airplane. You have a strong fear of heights and see the aircraft attempting to land on water. Now add a fear of water because you can't swim. But this is exactly how a seaplane landing occurs, as shown in this video. Seaplanes are designed for takeoff and landing on water surfaces. As terrifying as it may sound, these aircraft are indispensable in certain situations. Typically, seaplanes operate in hard-to-reach areas. They are often used in fighting forest fires in jungles and transporting tourists to islands without ground runways, such as popular resorts like the Seychelles and Maldives. When you're inside a plane during a flight and look out the window, you probably feel like you're gliding smoothly and gently. That's normal. At such altitudes, we don't feel the speed at which the aircraft is moving. But look at these frames. You might not even realize what happened. The video's author managed to capture another plane swiftly passing by. Indeed, planes in the sky move at incredible speeds. Typically, at high altitudes, a plane's speed varies from 600 to 900 kilometers per h. These values ensure the maximum flight range at a given altitude and dynamic progression. Additionally, we don't often see another plane flying by. However, if you look at a real-time airliner map, it might seem like the aircraft are literally flying on top of each other. Just think, right now, there are about 16,000 planes in the sky. But how do they manage not to collide randomly? Firstly, each aircraft follows its own trajectory. They all fly at a certain altitude known as a flight level. The difference between two planes flying in the same direction is usually at least 300 meters. Secondly, pilots are assisted by air traffic controllers. They monitor the route and, of course, inform about dangers, such as another plane deviating from its flight level and moving head-on. Lastly, various control systems help avoid collisions between two planes, such as TCAS, an automatic collision avoidance system for aircraft in the air. Of course, there have been instances of mid-air collisions in aviation history, but these are more exceptions, and such tragedies are very rare. In May 2021, an unusual incident occurred on board an Air India flight. The airliner was traveling from Delhi to Newark, USA. Everything was fine for the first half hour of the flight, but suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere, a bat appeared in the cabin. The captain informed the dispatcher about the incident. After a brief consultation, it was decided to return the plane to Delhi Airport. The landing was successful. The passengers were transferred to another aircraft and taken to the USA. The plane, which had the bat on board, was sent for sanitary processing. Air India staff speculated that the animal might have boarded during the loading of food supplies for passengers. Despite the delay in reaching Newark, many passengers admitted that the incident was somewhat amusing. Sometimes, intestinal problems can catch us off guard, especially at inconvenient times like when we are scheduled to fly on a plane. Of course, there are special medications for this, but for some people, stomach pain can start suddenly due to stress, even if everything was fine before. This awkward situation happened to a passenger on Delta Airlines Flight 194 from Atlanta to Barcelona. The flight was supposed to last 8 hours, but an hour after takeoff, the man began to suffer from severe diarrhea. Unfortunately, he didn't make it to the toilet in time. Imagine what the other passengers on this flight had to endure. The terrible smell that spread throughout the cabin caused some passengers to have vomiting episodes, further exacerbating the situation. The pilots then decided to turn the aircraft around and return to Atlanta Airport. In my opinion, that was the right decision in such a situation. All pilots are trained to handle any extreme situations that might occur during a flight, with weather elements often posing the greatest challenges. Flying over oceans or seas during a storm, pilots maintain their composure and assess the severity of the storm. If it appears dangerous, they change course to circumvent the raging elements. This requires calculating the time needed for the maneuver and considering all nuances that might arise while planning a new route. Alternatively, if the storm seems mild, they continue to fly through it. Typically, the aircraft starts shaking during this time, as seen in this video. Such vibrations might scare passengers, but there's no need for panic. Experienced pilots always make a well-informed assessment of the situation and prioritize the complete safety of their passengers. If you've ever flown on a plane, you've certainly heard about behavior and safety rules during the flight. Now, I'd like to talk to you about two of them, why they were devised and why it's essential to follow them. The first rule is a strong recommendation to fasten your seatbelts. This is usually announced during takeoff and landing. Passengers must be buckled up during the flight so that, in case the plane hits a turbulent zone, no one gets injured. During landing, pilots sometimes have to stop the aircraft abruptly, and if a person is not buckled up, they will, of course, fly out of their seat. So, make sure to adhere to this rule and remember to buckle up. According to the second rule, passengers can only take carry-on luggage into the cabin. The size and weight of the carry-on vary depending on the airline you choose. Usually, carry-on luggage is small and placed on the overhead shelves above the passenger seats. During turbulence, it sometimes happens that the contents of these shelves fall on the passengers' heads. And this video demonstrates just such an incident. Just imagine what would have happened to people if there were huge suitcases on the shelves. Sometimes passengers behave as if they are completely unfamiliar with norms of conduct. In the previous video, the example was shown by a girl with untamed hair. But this time, the hero is a guy who allowed himself to scroll through movies on the built-in tablet with his bare feet. This incident occurred in business class. No one doubts that this guy has a lot of money since he purchased a ticket in a comfort zone. However, this doesn't entitle him to behave in such a manner. Of course, after each flight, the airplane staff cleans the cabin. They clean the seats and floor coverings as well as disinfect surfaces. But you must agree, it's extremely unpleasant to touch a screen with your hands if someone has been scrolling it with their toes. This video demonstrates how the vast experience and skill of pilots can save hundreds of lives. On February 20th, 2021, United Airlines Flight 328 departed from Denver International Airport bound for Hawaii. Just 4 minutes after takeoff, the crew and passengers heard a loud bang, indicating a serious malfunction with the right engine. These frames show the extent of the engine damage and the severity of the incident. The passengers were very frightened. Some prayed, some cried, and others tried to ascertain the pilot's next steps. The chief commander of the crew announced an emergency and asked people to remain as calm as possible, then informed them of an imminent emergency landing in Broomfield. The experienced pilots managed to successfully land the damaged aircraft. None of the 229 passengers were injured. Later, it was discovered that during the flight, 2 blades broke in the right engine, one at the base and the other in the middle. Experts believe this could have been due to wear and tear on the metal parts. This incident was indeed serious, but the pilots knew how to handle such a situation. They regularly train on simulators to manage aircraft with one functioning engine. A good pilot is always prepared to adapt to extreme flight conditions. After this incident, over 100 aircraft of this model were sent for technical inspection. An airplane is considered one of the safest modes of transport. However, many people are terrified of flying. Undoubtedly, being a pilot for passenger airlines requires incredible responsibility, as the lives of over 100 people depend on their actions. Pilots are expected to work seamlessly with air traffic controllers and understand control systems. Most aviation disasters occur during takeoff and landing. Indeed, these 2 flight phases demand maximum concentration from pilots. Interestingly, applauding pilots after a successful landing has become a tradition in many countries. For most people, the mere thought of being about 10 kilometers above the ground can cause panic and a longing for it to end quickly. So, when the airplane's wheels finally touch the runway, passengers feel joy and thank the pilot for preserving their lives. This tradition is believed to have originated in 1948 after an American Airlines plane landed in Cincinnati. The plane had to circle the airport for a long time due to a landing gear malfunction, but the flight ended successfully. Sometimes passengers themselves notify pilots about a malfunction in an aircraft component. This happened in 2007, when a passenger on an Orient Thai Boeing 747-200 noticed that the upper panel of the wing was coming off. He immediately informed the flight attendants, who relayed the information to the pilot. The pilot then decided to make an emergency landing at Hong Kong Airport. Who knows how this incident would have turned out, if not for the attentiveness of this passenger. I think each of you would be upset if the person sitting next to you on a plane was rude and impolite. Most passengers try to behave civilly and not cause discomfort to others, but there are exceptions. The author of this video shared the boorish behavior of a man sitting behind her. For some reason, this person decided that the armrests of the adjacent seat could be used as a footrest. Just imagine how unpleasant it was for this girl when his feet appeared next to her. She couldn't relax and put her arms on the armrests because they were occupied. Moreover, the mere fact that a stranger's feet are next to you is repulsive. The behavior of this man is baffling. It would be interesting to see his reaction if he were in the girl's place and had such a cheeky neighbor behind him. Pet owners know how much trouble it can be to transport their pets on a plane. If you're planning to travel with your four-legged friend, you should familiarize yourself with the rules for transporting animals on planes, as they vary from country to country. In most countries, the owner cannot take cats and dogs weighing more than 8 kilograms, including the container, into the cabin. Therefore, pets must stay in the luggage compartment during the flight. Imagine the stress these animals endure. Of course, every owner worries about their pet and doesn't want to leave their beloved friend alone. So, some adventurous people risk breaking transportation rules and take their animals into the plane's cabin. However, sometimes the situation gets out of control, as in this video. The footage shows that while the owner was asleep, his pet managed to escape from the bag. The cat, being very curious, decided to explore its surroundings. Of course, it didn't understand that this action put its owner at risk. Unfortunately, how this story ended remains unknown. In February 2022, passengers on flight AK 5748 of Asia Airlines flying from Kuala Lumpur to Tawau literally felt like they were in the blockbuster Snakes on a Plane. Sometime after takeoff, a passenger noticed a snake in the semi-transparent ceiling lighting panel. This information was relayed to the aircraft's pilot, who decided to land at the alternate airport in Kuching. Meanwhile, airline representatives stated that no one aboard the aircraft that day was in danger. However, as a precaution and to avoid panic, the plane made an emergency landing. Personally, I believe this was the correct decision, as many people suffer from herpetophobia or a fear of reptiles. Each person has an individual reaction to fears, and for some, encountering a snake could have been deadly, despite it being behind a semi-transparent panel. A passenger on a flight to Australia took an absolutely fantastic photo. When he published this picture, people couldn't believe that such a thing was possible. In the image, we see some enormous humanoid creature flying past the aircraft and seemingly peeking into the windows. Netizens speculated that it might be an alien. Who knows? Maybe some of them decide to reveal themselves and deliberately appear before people. Admittedly, even if that were true, few would believe it. Our society almost always approaches such news with skepticism. Interestingly, the photographer himself believes he saw a real guardian angel in the window. According to him, the plane began to shake violently, and then this strange being appeared in the sky. The most interesting part is that as soon as he looked into the eyes of the celestial giant, the shaking stopped. Which of these two versions do you believe? Share in the comments. Sometimes the most unexpected things happen on the runway. A vivid example is an accident that occurred at an airport in Thailand. As it happened, the passengers were already seated, and the pilot was preparing for takeoff. However, when the airport tug moved the aircraft, it turned out that the airport worker had not removed the boarding stairs. As a result, the aircraft collided with the stairs using its left engine. Such an accident could have led to serious consequences, but fortunately, the impact was mild. Nobody on board was injured. Such incidents are rare, but they do occasionally happen. It is not reported in the media who was held responsible for the accident. In late June 2017, an Airbus A330 from AirAsia X was flying from the Australian city of Perth to Kuala Lumpur, the capital of Malaysia. The first 72 minutes of the flight were completely normal, but then the aircraft started shaking violently. As reported by the media, most passengers were asleep when the incident occurred, but the terrible shaking and loud bangs woke them up, as you can see in the video recorded by a passenger on board. Soon after, the pilot asked all passengers to pray. Such a request would scare anyone, I believe. When the pilot realized that the shaking was due to a fault in the aircraft, he decided to turn around and return to Perth Airport. For more than an hour, passengers had to endure terrible fear. The entire incident happened over the Indian Ocean. Fortunately, the story ended well. The pilot successfully landed the plane, and none of the passengers were injured, although they will surely never forget this flight. It was later revealed that the shaking was caused by a malfunction in one of the jet engine's components. But most importantly, the pilot made the right decision and managed to land safely. If you are interested in paranormal phenomena, then this clip is for you. An airport employee in Phuket witnessed a very creepy event. In front of him, a group of ghosts disembarked from an invisible airplane. It sounds like a scene from a horror movie, but what you see in these frames happened in reality. Interestingly, this phenomenon started occurring very frequently. Now, other passengers in the waiting area at night also began to see these ghosts. This story attracted the media's attention. Journalists tried to interview the airport's management, but they refused to comment on the matter. Some netizens speculated that it might not be ghosts, but a play of light. Others believed that the apparitions are real and represent the souls of those who died in plane crashes. And that's all from me. If you liked this video, don't forget to rate it, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell. Your activity is the best reward for me. Thank you for your attention. See you soon. Goodbye.